Hello again, friends. This is Sharon from Mad Paper Crush. I'm back today to work a little bit on my Christmas junk journal, my disc style cover. So I wanted to get the cover done because that'll keep me motivated to, do the rest. And we're probably also going to put together some of the pages today that are going to go in the inside. So I will, depending on how long things take, I hope that you'll join me. So I've created some digitals that I wanted to use as some supplies for my cover, and I've also made them for you. So if you would like this freebie, you can go to my blog. It's madpapercrush.com/Christmas cover, all one word, and grab a copy of these 2 pages to use these items for whatever you want. I'm probably not going to use them all on my cover, but I'm going to use some of them on my cover. And you're welcome to have them too. I hope that you can use them in your Christmas journal somehow. So let's get started. This isn't going to be a tutorial, just kind of have an idea in my mind. So I'm just going to go ahead and start putting it together and we'll see how it turns out. So I hope you'll join me. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I just cut myself from a box a piece of cardboard so that I kind of have a gauge on how big my cover is going to be. So I may end up, gluing the whole cover down to this and putting it on the cover itself on this piece as well. But I just wanted to at least have a size guide so that I don't end up doing something too big or, something like that. So the first thing I want to do is start cutting out some of my pieces. And I want to use this music page on the front. So now I printed this on cardstock. This might be better printed on regular paper so that you don't have such a tough time ripping it. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do this side. Let's see, and I'm going to pull this down a little bit because I don't want it to be so wide, I don't think. Actually, let me look at my guide. Okay. So trying to hold and pull this cardstock is not easy. But I think I did all right. So now we need to do the top. And I'm hoping that, I might have to tear that by hand. I'm hoping that I can get, part of this little town of Bethlehem to show on my cover. Just so you can see it's a Christmas, Christmas music page. And then let's see about size here. And I always like to go a little bit big, just so I can go smaller if I need to. I can't make something bigger. So, okay, so this is our base, and I like the way that looks. Now I'm going to get my cutter out, and actually I think I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to cut out the rest of the pieces, just so I have them ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, I have all my pieces about ready to go. So I just wanted to mention, I have the word treasure here that I wrote the dictionary meaning of. I want to use this word as sort of my word for the season. I want to treasure, the family time that I have, the things that we're doing over the holiday. I want to be able to treat all my memories and the things that we're doing as precious. I want to cherish that time that I have coming up. So you have that on your paper as well, and you're welcome to use it or not. I just wanted to have this as something visual for me to remember that that's what I want to be doing this season. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So I'm just gonna, like I said, start playing around. I love this extravaganzas. Makes me think of, you know, something fun that's going to happen. And so I thought this would be cool, maybe as a front pocket, and maybe even a double pocket. So I love this picture of, you know, what I'm thinking is maybe, you know, a girl and her father, you know, walking towards town or walking home or something like that. I love the picture of that. So I wanted to use that as well. So I was thinking this might be fun, maybe as a pocket in the front here, and this could be another pocket, so I have a little double pocket. I could also, you know, make it a little bigger so part of the wreath is showing, but I have all these other lovely pieces. And actually I was thinking about using this as a tag, so that might be fun in there too. And this is, you know, I like how she's kind of coming in through a door. So, you know, I'm thinking about people coming home and that kind of thing. I think that would be fun as a tag. So I might work on that as a tag separate to go in here. And then I had a couple different sizes of this, a Merry Christmas to You. So I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do with them. And then I have a ticket here. I love tickets. So I may try to figure out a place to put that down. And I definitely wanted to have my 2019 label on here somewhere, just as a reminder, you know, of what date or what year this journal will be from. So I think I like all this stuff. I may go grab some trim or some fabric or something just to add some more texture or textile to this, because I like the way this looks, but I do think I want to kind of have something a little extra for it. So before I do that though, I am going to just go and I'm going to, of course, distress everything so that it's all ready to go ahead and put down. So I'm going to do that real quick so it's ready. Okay, so now I have everything distressed and ready to go. I brought over a little piece of the cover fabric that was torn. I thought my label might look cute on there and sort of bring in the cover fabric a little bit for me. And then I brought over these little flower strips that I had made. I thought this might be cute on somewhere on here too. So I think what I'm going to do, like I'm just going to play around with where I want things. And I probably am going to add some stitching too. I don't know that I can do anything without adding some stitching to it. So we'll have to see how that goes. Oh, I like this on here. Oh yeah. Yeah. Maybe put my fabric down first, and then this, and then my label. Ooh, I kind of like that. And let's see if this can go anywhere. I might have to save that one for the inside, because I don't know if I want to cover up. I love this holly on this one. I'm going to have to make sure my picture isn't covered up here. I think that might be good. So what I'm going to do before I glue anything down is I'm going to, or stitch anything down, I should say, I'm probably going to stitch this back piece down. So because I want it to be a pocket, and let me just kind of see where I want it here. I want to make sure I have enough room for my flowers at the bottom. Okay, so I think I'm just going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the top edge of this pocket, And then I'm going to put it down and sew the entire thing onto my music page here. So before I do that, I'm just going to grab my pencil because I don't want to sew it down in the wrong place. So let me see here. I'm going to do that about there, I think. So if I love this as a tag, so I'm going to make sure if I make this into a tag that it still shows nicely, which I think it does there. So where did I have that? About right there maybe? A little bit of the music showing here. All right, so I'm just going to mark this with my pencil so I know when I sew it down, and this won't show, I know exactly where I want to sew it on here. And actually I may even add just a little notch to that. I think that would be a little fun indication of that, you know, saying that it's a pocket there. So right above the A and I'm just going to kind of eyeball this where the middle is. And then I'm just going to cut a very small little notch in there. Yes, I like it. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead and do some sewing on here. And I may even sew this on while I'm at it. So this one goes here. And this one, oops, this one goes here. And this one, I want a little bit of the wreath showing, but also some of the music down at the bottom. So I think I'm going to sew that one there. And because it's going to be covered by my flowers, I'm going to mark that too with my pencil, which I could go and erase too, but all right. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm probably just going to sew across the top so that it can be a pocket, and then I will sew that one on as well. Maybe I'll sew them both down together so that they will be on there. So I'll be right back. Okay, I have my pockets sewn on. So I have one here and I have one here, and I totally love it. So this is a good start. All right, so now I think I'm going to, what did I say? I was going to put my fabric on first, and I want it to kind of come off to the side a little so that we don't cover up our picture. So I'm just going to use a little, this is my Fabri-Tac, to put this down. And I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of put it on the fabric, and I'm going to keep it to the middle so that the edges can be loose. But I am going to just try to spread it out a little bit with my fingers so that it doesn't get lumpy. I like it, I like it. And now I can decide how I want to do these. So I'm gonna cut these apart because obviously I can't have the whole thing on here. So I'm gonna see if I can cut around just to take this red one off. Or the red and the green one off, I should say. So that I have a nice little strip here. And then I think, before I do it, I'm just going to look at it one more time. I think I'm going to put that on top, but let's see what it might look like underneath. I can still see the 2019 there. I don't know. What are you guys screaming at me? I wish I could hear you. I think I might put the flowers on top. All right, you talked me into it if that's what you were screaming. Because this certainly doesn't need to be a centerpiece of the cover, but I do want it on there. And then we'll put this on, making sure we're trying to keep our people in view there. So I sewed these little flowers. I think they're table decorations for like a wedding or something. So I just sewed them onto little strips of paper, and they're just perfect for, you know, cutting them down to whatever you want. And this is definitely something I could incorporate into some of the pages inside the journal as well. I like how it's coming together. Now, I definitely want to have my ticket on there. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it now, though, because I don't want it to be in the way of my extravaganza, but maybe I could just kind of put it off to the side there. Since it's, you know, my Christmas ticket, it says 25 on there. So maybe if I just put it off to the side, that'll add some extra interest to the cover that way. I think I like that. So I don't want to put it all the way to the end. I may have to go back in and add some more glue to it, or glue it down once we get it actually onto the cover. So I'm just going to put that there. And then I have to see if there's anything I want to do with this, but like we said, I may just save that for the inside, because I don't know if I want to cover up any more of anything here. And I like that it says a Merry Christmas to you, so I don't like want to put it in here, but I could add it maybe to the tag or something, but I'd cover up that little puppy dog. I don't know, we'll see. That's why I like having extra pieces, so that you can add or subtract or not use or use later or whatever. All right, so I love this so far. So now this is pretty sturdy. I could probably use it without the backing. So I have to decide if I'm going to do that. But I was thinking it also might be nice to have like some muslin or some strings or something coming out from behind this. So let me go see if I can find something to do that before we decide how we're going to put it on. You guys, I found some lace. So I think this might be the perfect addition. Put that pin somewhere where I can find it later. But I found this lace. I think this will look good underneath here. So it'll be on top of my cover fabric. And then, you know, just maybe have the edges coming out around it. I really like that idea. So now I just need to decide if I want to put this on the card. You know what? I don't think I need it. So it was a good judge of size, but because this is cardstock, I'm not sure I need it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, since this lace is, you know, double-sided and I only want one of the edges sticking out, I think I'm going to cut it down and cut it in half so that I can use less of it. So, because, you know, let's be sparing with our things. So I'm going to cut this a little bit big in case I decide I want to trim the edges, like corner the edges or something, but let's start with it this big and then cut this in half. So what I'm going to do is just glue it on here, and then I can decide if I want to miter the edges, you know, so that it's not just kind of sticking off, or even, you know, even just folding them over maybe so that they aren't, you know, kind of cut sticking out like that. So let me cut the sides first before I figure out what I'm doing. if I can figure out what I'm doing. So we'll cut this one a little bit big as well, and then cut this in half. Okay. All right, I definitely love the way this looks, but now I wonder if I should if I fold that in and fold this in, this might be too hard for me. All right, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to just glue it down first and then decide how I should finish the edges, if anything, because I'm thinking once I glue them down, I don't know if you can see, but kind of how this corner gets overlaid. You can kind of see it almost looks like it actually is turning a corner. So we'll see. We'll see if I can make that work. So I'm going to leave them a little bit long and we'll go ahead and glue them down first. So I just want a teeny bit on the edge here. And because this is lace, I'm going to have to, you know, make sure it's good and dry before I turn it over and whatever. But the Fabri-Tac should definitely, you know, come through the holes and make it nice and secure for me. Okay, let me just eyeball where I'm going to put my glue. So you guys will have to tell me in the comments, do you make a Christmas journal every year? Or do you know, is it too much with all the stuff going on in the holidays? Or I'd be interested to know what you guys do. So I'm kind of excited to use this journal this year because I really want to be documenting what's going on, just the day-to-day, the ordinary, the fun, you know, all the seasonal things that we do. I'm looking forward to having it kind of as a place I can look back, you know, and see what we did. Okay, so you can see how this edge is sticking out a little bit, but so I'm definitely going to have to trim things down once they dry, but I think I'm just going to get everything on and then we'll come back and trim things up after it's dry. Yeah, these side pieces are definitely too long. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry, but before I do that, and I just told you I shouldn't, you know, touch it before it's dry, but I really want to see how it looks. Oh, I think I'm going to love it. I think that's going to be awesome on here. Okay, so I will put it down now, and I am going to go play with my dog for a couple minutes while this dries, but you won't even know it because I'll be right back. I'm back. I bet you didn't even miss me. We're all good and dry now. Puppy had some fun. It's all good stuff. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to turn this over and look at what I should cut off here. So I definitely want to cut some of this one off. And some of this one off. And actually, I think I'm going to cut some of this top one off as well. Just a little though. Maybe. Okay, and at the bottom. That one doesn't look too bad actually. I might just straighten this one up. It looks a little crooked. And then this one, maybe just take a little bit off so you can see the corner there. So in case you're wondering, all I'm doing is I was thinking I would fold them over or miter the corners, but I think all I wanted to do was just make sure that when they were laying straight, they had a nice, you know, finish or look to it. So I think this accomplishes that just perfectly. So now this can go on my cover, and then we can start on working on some tags and some inside pages. So let's go ahead, and I am just going to use my Fabri-Tac to glue this all down right up to the edge of the paper. Make sure my lace is glued here. Whoa, whoa. I'm telling you, when I craft, it's a hot mess around here. All right, and I think I'm gonna try to center this a little bit. And I was thinking about putting some trim on the edge, but I think this lace is just enough to, you know, finish off that straight edge of the fabric underneath. All right, and there we have it, the cover. Now I want to work on some tags. So I think I'm going to try to make both of these into tags somehow. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it. I love that, you know, either one of these, she's sticking out, although I do think I like this better with her hand out. So I might try to figure out how to do this one maybe a little bit bigger. And because the other thing is I really wanted to fit this onto a tag, onto the back side maybe or something. I don't know. So we'll have to see what I can do here. So I'm just gonna speed some of this up and I will go ahead and start working on this. Okay, so the first thing I decide to do is reinforce my pieces. So even though they're on cardstock, when I make things into ephemera, tags and things like that, I do like to, you know, reinforce them a bit. So I just have a couple of book pages that are already glued together that I'm putting that on just to reinforce it. And I was going to do the same thing for the other pieces, but when I thought about making a tag in the back there that had to be a little bit wider, I just decided to use this time card. So I'm just working on picking it up and figuring out what size it needs to be, and grabbing some additional things because I thought I would, you know, put some book pages on there because I do like to have book pages around. So here I'm just measuring how big that time card needs to be and cutting it down so that I have a tag the right size that I can work on there. And so now I'm trying to decide what I want on that because I do want to cover up the time card with the lettering for the dictionary word treasure. I don't need all that other wording on the time card. So I'm cutting down the size of the dictionary word so that it'll fit right on my tag. And I decide to cover one whole side of the time card in book page. So I'm just deciding what side I want down. And I'm going to go ahead and put my glue stick on there. And I'm trying to center it in the words so that it is fully covered by words. And now I'm getting out my, you know, little bit bin there that I have all kinds of bits of paper and different things in. I'm going to use some of that to cover up the other side. And now I'm just tearing off the additional book page around the time card piece so that it has a nice torn edge look, which I always like. Okay, and now I'm just going to try to work on some collage. So there's a lot of just me placing things down and pulling other things out and moving them around just to kind of see where I want things. So I'm back in the bin looking for some book page to use. And before I forget, I just want to distress the edges. So I always end up having to go back afterwards, so I'm trying to remember to do it first. So I wanted the edges of my time card distressed so that if I didn't go right to the edge with some of the collage pieces, you would just see that distressed look underneath. More tearing, putting things in place. And I kind of like how this looks, but the lines from the time card are showing, and I decide that it needs more book page. So I found another little piece of book page that I could use to go under the little ledger piece that I'm going to put on top there. And so once again, just dressing at least my inside edges, because I know I'm probably going to tear that book page off, so it has a margin there at the end, and I don't really want the margin on there either. I want the words from the book page showing underneath. So now I'm just tearing more of the ledger page off to make sure it fits the way that I want it. And I even realize at this time that I'm probably going to be covering up a lot of the book page, especially down at the bottom, because that's where I'm going to put my dictionary word, but that's okay. So, and you can see I'm trying to decide what what even I want here and there. So I'm rounding the corners of the dictionary piece, and I'm just trying to get things settled in to try and figure out how I want them. And then I'm turning to the other side. I do decide that I like the look of the A Merry Christmas to You card sort of displayed all in and of itself right on the other side there. But now I do decide that I kind of want something to frame it a little bit. So I found this, just a piece of this painter's paper that I was thinking I could use as kind of a frame for the card. So as you can see here, I'm trying to tear it down so that it remains big enough to show behind the card, but that piece was too small and it was, being hidden by the card. So I'm trying to decide for another piece I can use to do it. And then I get to the point here where I just abandon this entire idea and say, you know what, I need to start with a piece that's completely bigger than the card so that when I tear it down, I can do it in a more controlled way, because it's really not happening for me here. You can see me going back and forth, and finally I just decide, you know what, I need to I need to find a piece that's bigger than the card itself so that I can tear it the way I want to tear it. So I use a piece from the roll, and now I realize that I have stuff everywhere, and I'm trying to clean up a little bit. So I was going to just glue the card down and then tear around it so that I could leave a margin of the painter's paper behind the card. But of course, as soon as I got the glue on there and put it down, I decided that the painter's paper was a little plain. So I thought, maybe I want to stamp some of it. So I pull it back up and grab my stamp to do some stamping on it to see if I can just add a bit extra to that paper. So I was going to use the other half of the paper, but as I'm doing that, I realized that as I'm using my Distress ink for the ink pad, it's really not showing up the way I want it to. So I'm making sure the top part is dry and adding the stamps back to the top part where I had originally laid the card down. So I'm going to use that again for my frame. So I'm just putting some stamping around just so it will show when I do the tearing around of it. And I'm using a baby wipe to just clean off my stamp to make sure the ink is off of there before I move on. All right, so we're going to try this again, round 2 of gluing this card down to the painter's paper. But I like how the stamp there is going to come off around the edges in little spots for me. So I definitely was happier with this after I had done some stamping on it. And so now I'm going to use my ruler, my jagged ruler, to tear off the edges. And I'm trying to leave maybe, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little less than 1/4 of an inch margin all around everything. So this is a much more controlled way for me to get the frame that I'm looking for without tearing it by hand, but also making it look like it's torn by hand. So I'm just finishing off a couple little pieces, but I really was much happier with the way that looked in the end for me. So, and I decide to, when I put it on, I'm going to put it on low at the bottom of the tag so that I have room for some, a topper there, a tag topper. And so now I'm going ahead and gluing on the other pieces from the other side that I had decided what to use. So my book pages, and then I'm going to glue down the ledger page and the dictionary page in just a moment. And when I'm gluing something down in the middle where I'm still deciding I might do some stitching around the end, I always like to use my glue stick. It seems to do very well with paper, that you want to make sure the edges are nice and glued down for collage. Now I'll use, if I have a heavier paper, I won't use the glue stick. I'll use my glitter glue or sometimes my Fabri-Tac for that part. And so here I was getting ready to glue down my dictionary page, but I decided that the back of the tag was so plain that I needed something else to go on there. So I just went into my scrap bin to see what I could find, and I found this sort of red polka dot paper. I don't think it's meant to be Christmas paper, but it did match some of the colors and things that I have going on the front here. And so I thought this would be a nice little addition just to add a pop of color to the back of the tag there, so that when I'm reading my my word there, if I'm looking at it, there's a nice pop of color. And here, once again, I end up doing something different than I thought I was going to do. So I was thinking I would do another frame for this one. But because the dictionary word piece kind of goes right to the edge of the tag, it wasn't really working out for me. So it wasn't giving me enough of a frame for it. So I just decided to leave the size, the width of that red paper the same size as the dictionary piece, but then just tear the top to give it a little bit of a torn look. And so I just have the frame up at the top there that'll stick out at the top. And as you can see, I just have, there's stuff everywhere. I don't know if you guys craft like this, but I have so many ideas going on in my head that I feel like I need to keep moving. And you can see I have my glue lid off. I have rulers everywhere, pieces of paper and fabric all over the place. So, but that's how I craft, and I enjoy it. So now I'm just trying to decide how much I want sticking up so that I know where to glue it down. So I was just making a mark so that once I put the glue on, I know where to put it. And so you can see here, this is just a plain piece of scrapbook paper, so it's pretty light, and I'm using my glue stick for that. But because I had printed that dictionary word onto cardstock, I am going to use the glitter glue, and so you can see me pull that out for this because it's a little bit heavier. The glitter glue, I think, does a better job on heavier papers in making sure the edges stay down and everything. And so now I have a nice little pop of color above that, which I really liked. And so I'm distressing the edges of the front before I put on the little Merry Christmas card that I had created with the painter's paper here. And I like how that looks, and I'm trying to decide what to do, and I decide that I need to sew it before I put that on. So I wanted to do some sewing, but I kind of wanted to leave the painter's tape, the painter's paper a little bit free-flowing, so I figured I should sew first and then glue this piece down. So that's what I did, and I just did some messy stitching all around the tag there, and I was just putting the glitter glue on basically the card part, and I leave the painter's paper around the edges loose. I did decide at the end, which I don't think was on camera, to glue down the bottom of the painter's tape on that piece so that when I was pulling it in and out of the pocket, it wouldn't flip up. So, but that's the only part that I glued down. I left the rest free. And now I'm just trimming down our other tag that we had done with our lady walking in through the door here. And I'm just looking for some paper to back it. So I'd already put some book pages on for stability. And I found this lined paper from an old photo album, actually, that I had coffee dyed, and I really liked the way that looked. So I am just stretching the edges because I was thinking I would use the holes underneath. You can see there I'm just kind of seeing how that looks. But because there aren't any words or anything, I didn't think it was that interesting. So I went ahead and decided to glue it down just over the interesting coffee splotches that were on there. So I'm using my fabric tack for this one, trying to make sure I get everything glued down here. Now I'm just deciding which side I want it on, which it doesn't really matter. They both kind of looked the same on both sides there. Okay, so that's going to be the back of the tag so that I'll have room to journal on or write something in the end there. And now I think I'm trying to clean up a little bit since I have stuff going on everywhere and glue bottles open and all kinds of stuff. And I did pull back out the lace because I thought I might want to do something with the lace on this. But I sort of decide, you know what, I don't think I'm going to get that fancy on this tag. I did decide in the end to use that for the tag topper. So that was enough for me to pull in the lace there. So here's where I'm kind of thinking, you know what, I'll just use it as a tag topper. So I'm going to grab my Crop-A-Dile so that I can put an eyelet onto this tag and have a topper there. And I have so many different colors of eyelets, I was just trying to decide which one would look best. And because some of the colors on the front had some gold in them, especially that front pocket, I thought using the gold eyelet would work the best there. So I'm just eyeballing where to put the eyelet. And Crop-A-Dile chomping that onto there. I love that little tool. And now here I'm deciding how long to make my tag topper, and I want to make sure I have enough to go through and make a loop. This is a pretty thick lace, so I just wanted to be sure I had enough to go around and make the loop when I pull the two through. And that's definitely plenty. And then I just decide to make a little V-cut on both sides of the lace just to add a little bit of interest there. Make it look decorative there. And I really like how that one turned out. And then as I'm looking at it, of course, I decide, you know what, I need to ink the edges because when I trimmed it down, the book pages were still plain. They hadn't been inked. And then I decide, before I even get done, that, you know what, I wanted to add some interest to the edges. So I'm using my corner chomper there. And I think this one is called Scallop, maybe? Scallop or Cloud, I'm not sure. I think it might be Scallop. And now I'm going to go ahead and distress the whole thing. But I like how the edges look there with that little bit of trim stamped onto there. And I am just distressing the back since I hadn't done that either. All right, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. And now I need to finish off the other tag topper. So I had been looking for some trim, something I wanted to use. And because the lace was kind of nice and, you know, I don't know, not messy, I decided to grab this sari ribbon, sari silk that I have that has a lot of jagged edges and threads going everywhere. And that's definitely the sort of shabby, messy look that I like. And that was a perfect, as I was just testing it out to see what I wanted. So I decided I probably had way too much here. So I went ahead and I was just going to kind of cut it in half because I didn't need to use that much of it. And I liked how this piece had some green on it as well. So there's some green, you know, in the cover that I thought I could bring together. So all I'm doing right now is I'm trying to loop or, you know, zigzag this piece in a way that I can sew it down onto the top. So I had to do it several times to kind of get the right size loops. But I did finally get the right size loops. So then I take it and I sewed the loops onto the top of the tag. And then the loops that were up above the top, I just cut them down then so that they are individual, you know, pieces now. And then I just trimmed some of the edges to make them look a little bit nicer, you know, cornered them off a little bit. Okay, friends, we finished up the cover. I really love the way it looks with the tags and everything that we've got on it. So it's all ready to go. And I was going to do a little bit more on collecting the papers for the inside, but the video's kind of gotten long enough. So I'm just going to very quickly kind of show you what I'm going to start with. The thing I love about a disc journal is that you can always add or subtract. You don't have to, keep the pages in. So there's no signatures. They don't get sewn together. So you don't have to worry about, making sure you have the right things in there that, you want. So the first thing I wanted to show you is from my Santa's Ledger digital kit that's in my Etsy shop. I have these pages that I've print out, and they are full-size US papers. So they are 8.5 tall and 11 wide. Now my journal is 8.5 tall, so these are perfect, the height, but I wanted to use them. And so what I did was I printed them out, I folded them in half and glued them together, so that now I have one page that can be flipped in my disc journal, and I can still use both sides of the page. So I just wanted to show you that because I think it's a neat way to be able to still use some of your digital pages if you're not doing signatures. So I've glued a bunch of them together like that, and then a couple of them, so like this one, I decided to, it's folded on this side, and you can see I have my punches ready for the discs. But then on this side, I just decided to glue the top, the bottom, and down the middle. So I have these two pockets that I can use for note cards or for tags or something like that. So I thought that would be fun to have in the journal to be able to put some things in. And then also for this one, the fold is on this side. You can see I have my punches on the open side. I glued the bottom. So then when I put it into the journal, I'll have a nice pocket up at the top here to be able to put things in there. So that's my the digitals that I'm using for in here. I am putting a bunch of just plain coffee dyed paper in here. I want to have lots of space to journal and to add, other ephemera and things on here as I go through the month. So I don't want to have them, too busy before I even get started on there. I have some book pages. I have these cool Greek flashcards that I thought would be fun to put in there, and they're actually perforated, so if I wanted to tear one out maybe and do something to it, I could do that too, but I'm going to leave it in there plain for starters. I have these cute ledger pages that I have coffee dyed that fit in there. I'm using some botanical book pages. I always love having them in just because the beautiful illustrations and colors. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing with them yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and get them in there because they always inspire me. And then I have some scrapbook paper, and this is mostly cardstock. These are pretty thick as they are, so I'm not sure if I'll use them all. But I just kind of wanted to show you this one for sure, because I like to put different sizes of pages in my book. So you can see, I'm just going to grab the back side, of my journal here. So you can see I have 8 punches, but this one will go in the middle somewhere, which I love. So I may just leave it as a flip like this, or I might even sew or glue, the sides here to make a nice, pocket on the side here. But you don't even have to have, you can have things that are even smaller, that are on here that make it very interesting as a true junk journal has different size pages and and everything else. And a true junk journal is just what you want it to be. When I think of a true junk journal, I think of something with different size pages and, flips and pockets and all sorts of things. So that's kind of why I wanted to do something like this. I'm sure I'll probably do more of them. I haven't completed all of my inside pages yet. So hopefully by next week, I'll be able to give you a flip through of how the whole thing came together. But I do love it so far. I really think it's coming together nicely. So remember, if you would like these free digitals, you can go to my website at www.madpapercrush.com/Christmas cover, no space or anything, and go out and grab yours out there. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.